The day before I went into corporate America, I wrote myself a note: be a good guy, make as much money as you can, never forget the songs, get out.
You're literally at the top of your career, and you basically say, F this, I'm out of here. I'm done with the bullshit. Why?
This is going to be the hardest thing I've ever done. I was writing music every moment of every day.
It's about your inner self. That's when you get the change.
This culture is building an incredible mass of people with nothing to lose. I want to give them something to lose.
Each financial decision is not in a silo by itself. It has to be looked at and how it relates to something else in your plan. And most people are not looking at the big picture.
And I'm sitting with James D. Scanlon, by the way. Jimmy Scanlon is a retired corporate real estate professional in New York City.
New Jersey.
How many years have you been retired now? What year was that?
2008.
So
right before the meltdown of the financial market.
Right. So 2008, you're literally at the top of your career. And you basically say, F this, I'm out of here. I'm done. I'm done with the bullshit. Why?
Because this story's not a new story. There's plenty of guys in corporate America that you really don't find any fulfillment, any meaning. And I had known it a long time. So do you journal?
Every day.
Okay, so I journal. I don't as much anymore, but I journaled like crazy when I was young. The day before I went into corporate America, I wrote myself a note: go in there, be a good guy, make as much money as you can, never forget the songs, get out. So that was my mantra, which was a curse because every day I showed up, I felt like a loser.
And you wanted to get out because you were imposter.
Every day I called it the box. Here I am. I talked to myself, okay, get into the box. And you'd climb into that box. So I was a little bit tainted before I even went in. And I don't come from a place where my dad was a repo man, then he turned into a salesman. My mom, in the days when you could be a stay-at-home mom, so money never drove us. My older brother and older sister didn't even go to college.
Right.
So, but for me, athletics drove my
future.
So, yeah, because it was all about competition, and I was decent at sports. So that was the way we competed in the world, and that was the prize. Whether I believe that should be the prize is another
whole other question, which I know we're going to dive into. The podcast is Money Isn't. And I know we had a conversation before about what money isn't means to you. But when you first heard it, or now, what pops into your brain?
A big exclamation point, because I love that name and I think it just says it all. The more I think about it, I could not put another word in, and it's just money isn't. And if you start with that premise, you may figure out some things about really. I have a good dear friend named Ricky Eldridge, and we talk about the moon and the stars and everything. And one of the things we figured out was everybody's born addicted to money. Addicted to money. And you know what? All the drug problems in the world, you could kick those drug problems, heroin, all this. You cannot kick the addiction of money.
Right.
And that's a really interesting thought.
And our society just fuels money. I mean, my dad used to say money isn't everything, but without it, you can't get a date, right? Like, you know, it's like so many basics, so many core things. And money right now in the society is, if you don't have money, you're not doing anything.
It's a very interesting dynamic. Is there another way to live? I would say there are. Then I'll also introduce George Carlin, who talks about the magic of a human. And when you interact one-on-one, it's this magnificent exchange. Once they group up,
it changes.
Something takes over. And next thing you know, it's a very strange dynamic.
Personas change.
Yeah, people sort of, I don't know what they aspire to. Afraid
to be 100% who they are because they don't want to be.
See, now money makes that because empowerment, perception, empowerment, authenticity, money jades all that. Yeah. If we didn't have it, I think those things would be on the table. One of the things that upset me, the way I grew up in Fairhaven on the edge of the black community, which was the center of town was all black, and on the working class side, was that when I got successful and I started driving a fancy car, I was embarrassed.
How come?
Because it wasn't my identity. It wasn't. It was just a tool to put a a decision maker from a corporate company in that back of the seat to say, oh, this guy's successful, he must make sense.
Smallwood Wealth Management is the lead sponsor of this podcast. You have an opportunity to have a free, no obligation conversation with one of our qualified advisors. Go to smallwoodwealth.com, schedule a call, or call us at 800-797-1000 and get on our calendars.
I was a pallbearer at my dear friend Aaron Reevy's funeral, and I had parked my car away, and little did I know the procession was going to be on that side. So they had the hearse, and they had, and there's all the black community from Fairhaven. And I'm standing there with the other pallbearers, and all of a sudden the funeral director comes up, who's the rich guy with the fancy car? And in front of everybody.
And you shrunk 42 sizes that day.
In front of everybody, I have to walk out and say, oh, that's me.
What was the car?
Lexus, the brand new Lexus, what was it, 430?
Oh, the big one.
The big one.
The big, long one that everybody loved.
Oh, it was, you were driving that car, you wouldn't even think you were on the road.
What color was it?
Charcoal gray.
Oh, yeah, that was a good color.
But we had a couple of them,
Yeah, I love that car.
Yeah, but it's...
But that was like the car. This is like 92, 93, 4?
No, a little later.
Yeah, but that was the car. That car was really cutting edge. Like people gravitated away from the Mercedes. They gravitated towards that car. That became the car.
Yeah, but a lot of people drove the Mercedes and the BMWs.
And
but it's
the 7 Series.
For me, that was always a better...
Beautiful car.
Better feel, much more quiet. But anyway, so it's about what you present in the world. And I still drive almost every day the car I bought in 2008.
When you retired.
And when I get out of it, now I have to trade on my personality, my grace, my empathy, or my courage. It's not that I pulled up in something that people are going, okay, here, we already know who he is.
Right.
So it's a different way.
And that essence of you is the same. It's just that you were wrapped up in the idea of the car as opposed to the idea of Jim.
No, I was always playing a game. So
the game. I'm saying you're wrapped up in the game of money.
Pursuit.
And the pursuit of it. And then you basically just one day, that pursuit of get out, you basically say, done.
Health had something to do with it. My body was telling me it was time. Mm-hmm. I had risen to the corner office with the 2 glass panels. Now everybody wants me to help them make them money too. When I was a gunslinging salesman, it was much more fun.
Hungry.
And no, you were on your own.
And you were hiding too. You were not.
You were totally,
now you weren't. Now all that attention is on you.
Be careful what you wish for.
Right, and it's now everybody wants a piece of you. They expect things from you, and you're no longer. Now you're on this machine. It's like if I don't produce, oh my God, I'm gonna people are gonna now perceive me as weak or whatever it is, and it's like a vicious cycle.
So
the sales competition.
Well, if anybody knows corporate real estate, it is the most romantic, competitive business there is, and it's like, my dad was a repo man. I didn't go in with any contacts. I didn't go in with any connections. I just went into this business, and I was the top producer in the office quite a few times. And one time we had merged. We sold ourselves to a New York firm, and I was in a big boardroom in New York, and all the top producers from around the country were sitting around, and the head guy started going around saying, okay, you made X, but I know other guys in your market that made X times 10, times 3, times 2.
Yeah, right.
And I went,
oh, wow. Now I feel small.
The guy's on the verge of a divorce.
Yeah.
His kids don't know who he is. It was like the most empty. It was the most empty. Okay, tell me the guys and I'll tell you who they are.
Yeah.
I don't choose to live like that. And probably within 3 months, my body went tilt and I was.
So you're home. You're retired. Everybody thinks you're nuts. They're waiting for you to come back.
And then word spread that I wanted to be a country music star.
Right. And then you wrote this book. You wrote this whole...
So my secretary, who I shared that I secretly wrote songs along the whole way. So I look back on my career and I wasn't just doing that. I was writing music every moment of every day We were rebuilding. I keep looking to my partner wife because she's awesome.
Yeah.
And we rebuilt 2 houses together. We had a daughter. We did all those things. And I look back and go, how did I pull that off?
Yeah.
So there was a lot going on. It wasn't just business. I was multitasking.
So you're writing this music, and out of the music comes this theme of this story. And how did this thing, like, when did you say, I've got to get this out of me. I got to put this on. Not only, you have all the music, but now you start to put the story down.
I wrote a Christmas song. Same fella, Ricky Eldridge, had a show. I never played out. I never played in front of people.
So you did?
Huh?
So you went and played?
No, he asked me to write for him.
Interesting.
And I'd never done anything like that because I would only write things that interest me. I wouldn't just write to write it. I could feel it in my toes. I knew when a song was coming. I don't have that feeling anymore. I do have a catalog of, upwards of 200 songs that I manipulate. But when it comes to that really like powerful, passionate feeling to emote a melody in a song, I would dream them.
Yeah.
When all these things would come, and then I'd work, because I'm not the most gifted, songwriter nor the most gifted artist.
So the 200 songs are written, many of them before the book gets written.
I did write a lot. I assembled for the story, the book, the audio book, and then I crafted new ones.
Tell me, the book, the 1.0 book, is One Shot Billy.
So I'll give you, in 2008, I wrote this Christmas song for Ricky, and I could recite the lyrics, but it was about inspiration running high, a dead man rose and touched the sky, and even though no witness spoke, word spread of a Holy Ghost, Mother Nature pushed aside, held the hand of Father Time. Everyone was so surprised the Savior had arose. Now, the song keeps going. I happen to love that song, but I was like, Mother Nature pushed aside, held the hand of Father Time. I'm like, wow.
Mother Nature pushed aside, held the hand.
When that Savior rose. So if you look back, on the spread of religion, it's like, wow, it became all man-made. It had nothing to do with nature. So I said, if she got pushed aside, who was Father Time? And I started to develop this mythological family. And I started to come home from work, and I would draw these org charts. Then I figured out who a Father Time was. Then I figured out the other 2 sons of Mother Nature that you need to run this planet. And I created this mythical...
Not the heat miser.
No, not the heat miser. I'll save it.
You'll save it.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting mythology. We've shared the audio book, Aim on You, with our neighbor who's been sharing it with her granddaughter, and she is just tickled pink that connection. Like, there's a story for them to share.
So let's dive into the story. Like, you create this beautiful story about somebody coming, in essence, we find out later in the story that he's coming from the clouds. Don't
know. He's just, you find out who he is within the first 3 chapters.
Right.
But it takes a few chapters to figure out the dynamic.
He's in a school system. He's substitute teaching.
See, that's the book. That's not so there's, let's maybe do the historical account.
Yeah.
So when I came up with that storyline, the outline, I had it in my head as a play.
Right.
So I wrote it as a play. And while I was doing that, I reached out for a young lady that I had known at Rutgers. I ran the concerts at Rutgers for 3 years. So
I
it was
remember
great education. And
what was the best band that you booked? I forget.
The best time, I think,
was Jay Giles' band or something like that you mentioned?
No, about Billy Idol.
Billy Idol.
That was just fantastic because it was when MTV just hit.
Yeah.
And he was just this huge star. $7,500. That's how much I paid Billy Idol to come.
To come to Rutgers. And how many people came to that?
Oh, because we only could fill up the gym. We sold out. Oh, the show before that, I did Hot Tuna, lost so much money that I went at this with a no marketing budget. So I had about 50 volunteers working for me, and I asked them, I begged them after every class, right, December 7th, he's coming, for like a month before. And then I took a little ad he had this really cool
the spiked
picture,
hair.
that spiked hair. It was and it cost me like $5 to put in the Targum, which was the Rutgers newspaper, said he's coming December 7th. And then when I finally threw the tickets out, it took like a day and a half to sell every ticket. But he threw a hissy fit in sound check, like trashed all. They did the classic rock star. Like it was so great.
So you've got this thing. Let's go back to the story. So this story is in you, and now you write it as a play.
Yeah, so I reached out for a young lady that I knew from Rutgers, and I hadn't talked to her so it was 20-some years, and she said something very smart. I recall we had a class together, and she said, I'm going to be an entertainment attorney. And it always stuck in the back of my head. So 20 years later, I Google her, and she's a huge entertainment attorney in Nashville. So Linda, do you remember me? And she's like, absolutely. I had fixed her car one time. We were just friends. And whatever you need. So next thing I know, my wife, Veronica, my new daughter, Holly, are on a plane to Nashville to stay at her ranch. We stayed at the guest house.
Pretty cool.
And then, they stayed back, and that's when I showed up with the Mirror guitar in her library, and she's like, what do you got?
Let's talk about the guitar. Let's talk about the essence of it and why it's such a powerful.
So the mythical icon finds this person we all know, finds a Mirror guitar. He thinks it's a vanity mirror, a 3-foot-tall vanity mirror, like a handheld mirror that he's going to give to his girlfriend. And he happens to be a hopeless romantic and in and out of girlfriends. He's in search of his forever girl.
Yes.
His forever girl. Always in search of his forever girl.
For Mrs. Right. Nobody's ever right.
Nobody's ever right. But he finds this guitar. He's like, oh, she's going to love this. And she had just discovered who he was. And every time a girl discovered who he truly was, they distanced themselves. But this is going to make it all better. And she basically responds to the guitar in not the best manner. And when he holds it up to look at himself, he notices something, because the front is mirror. It's an acoustic guitar. The sides are flat black, and the back is a mirror. But when he holds it up to look at himself, the sound hole is red and it's illuminated, and it happens to be positioned in the center of his chest. So he's holding it like a vanity mirror.
So there's a mirror. He's holding it like a vanity mirror.
Yeah,
he sees the hole in his heart.
And the whole story is him trying to come to grips with what that means.
What does that, like, when you wrote that, like, there was something going on about a hole in your heart in society, and you were trying to get people to really understand something in that. What is this that you're trying to?
So let's go back to the historical.
Yeah.
It didn't just go like that.
I know that.
Right. So you learn as you go through life. So this project that I've been writing since 2008
right.
started as a play. Now the songs have been static because that young lady said, hey, I can help you get these, onto tape.
Right.
So she made a couple phone calls to I was treated incredibly well. And I went to Nashville, met some professionals, and they helped me get it on tape. Found a wonderful singer, Lewis Lee, found a great producer. Because when you go to Nashville as a New York, New Jersey businessman with money, and you say, hey man, I got these songs, everybody thinks, okay, this guy.
We've heard this story before.
A million times. So there's two roads to go. And it's literally, these guys all know that. You go down this road, which is, okay, we're going to make this, we'll smooth this guy's ego out a little bit.
Take some
or
money.
We can go this road. And one of the nice things, because boy, I played in my bedroom with the door locked. I had so many close people to me tell me I was no good, to be quiet, to shut up, and I would never stop. And after I left, the producer wrote a note to that lawyer that said, I'm a really good songwriter. And I cried when I read that.
Yeah.
And when I heard Lewis sing songs, I cried. Because those were things that I had in my pocket. Your delivery system, right? Like when you're a person, your delivery system is so important. And
when you say delivery system, what do you mean?
Listen, how lucky am I? Number one, I'm a man.
Right.
Number two, I'm white. Number three, I'm tall. Number four, my parents gave me decent genes. I'm coordinated.
You married well.
Yeah, these are all decisions. So I'm the most impatient, patient person you'll ever meet.
Right.
I'm like work, but I don't pull that trigger, and I never put a roadblock in front of anything. If somebody says something to me, I never shut it down. I try to break it, spin it, explore it. And it's like, because I live in a world where people are like, that's unrealistic. I don't think like that.
Right. It's only unrealistic if you think it is.
And that doesn't mean I live in the clouds, because I've navigated this world pretty well. But it just means that dreams, I'm the night before Christmas guy, is always better than Christmas Day. Always better. Yeah. I never, even, we just got some merch. Like I dreamed, this new logo we designed, Veronica and I, it's going to look so cool. And then it shows up. I'm like, all right, it's all right. You know?
Expectation versus reality. Yeah.
It's funny, right? I love to live like that.
So Billy's got the guitar. He's looking at himself. He realizes that he has a hole in his heart. And the question is, or the statement or the philosophy or what you're trying to get people to understand is, we're walking around with holes.
Everybody has a hole in their heart.
Right.
And I would debate this forever.
Right.
Everybody's born with a hole in their heart.
From different perspectives.
It's just the way we're wired. And, it's like I have a new belief, and I do it to check myself. Everything I do is selfish. Everything.
It's for you.
It's always it's everybody's selfish. That's just the way it is, right? Even when you're the greatest charitable, I belong to the firehouse. I've spoken at the drug rehab center, and every time I
ran
walk
2
out,
charity functions this year. We made a lot of money for everybody. Is it for the charity, or is it for us?
Well, it's for me, it's about pride.
Yeah.
Like I have this concept of a for-pride corporation, not a for-profit corporation. And somewhere I got to find some smart people to help me figure that out. But it may not be possible, but that's the way I'm going to operate, is to try to empower. But it still is selfish.
But you can't help people unless you've actually figured out what.
There's only one true permanent patch to the hole in your heart.
Correct. Which is?
It's giving. It's that pride.
Giving of yourself, giving of your content, your capabilities.
I could be in a supermarket line, and I could say, hi, I feel great.
Right.
And that person says hi because of 14 people before.
Ignore them.
I take it to the next level, because the one thing I don't want to do is not have empathy for everybody operating under this system. So truly the story takes it right up the ladder and says, wow, if we could take this concept that we teach all this self-help for people who are battling all these things. My new question when I meet people, how many jobs you got? It's not like, hey, where do you work? How many jobs you got? Because the pressure on everybody. So people not saying hello and all that, it's sort of a byproduct of this manic system we live in. So the audio book and the book targets how we change that system.
And it's the giving in multiple different nuances of giving, from a simple hello, how are you, to a deeper level of giving.
Ask me a specific question. I like to, if you said, Jim, would you give up half of your money, your whole net worth, and make people empowered so when you go out on the street, everybody's nice to you? I'll do it. Jim, would you give 80% of your money? Would you go back to work if you walk down the street, everybody's like, hey, how you doing? I think the answer is yes.
Right.
So it's like if everybody had this concept of we're chasing a lifestyle that's not built by walls, and it's more built by, here's another example. I'm on the boardwalk. I don't run as much because my legs can't take it, but I would see dolphins as I'm running, or I'd see something unique, and all these people were manically, tied to the boardwalk and smoking or whatever they're doing. I'd say, look, there's a dolphin. They all drop. Their mouths open up.
And they were just going to walk on right by. They weren't even going to see it.
Yeah, but they don't. But it's amazing how it makes them drop and stop. But meanwhile, their lifestyle is doing everything to eliminate that.
Correct.
And it's, I'm not.
It's that peripheral vision of, oh my God, there's all these wonderful things that are happening outside of me, but I might be focused on shit that's going on.
But let's not blame them.
No.
Let's talk about the system. Like I'm always, I don't voter shaming.
Oh.
It's the worst.
Oh my God.
It's like, oh yeah, you vote. Dude, come on. Like it's not.
How could you?
It's not.
Either way. I mean, how could you? How could you think that way?
I do not vote. I think it's the most unintellectual thing you can do. The system's so broken. And people tell me I've given up. I just had somebody yell at me the other day because they said, "Oh, I hear you don't like this." I said, I don't want a revolution. I want to inject a what into all these who's, and that what is, know you have a hole in your heart. Be authentic. Like for me, everybody says, it's an election of freedom. It's an election of your democracy. And no, it's an election of authenticity.
Yeah.
That's it. Unless everybody's going to just put their cards on the table, we'll never know.
No.
And so I operate on a different plane. So my empathy level is very high when I interact with people.
So the whole, I'm going to go back to the whole. Because I want to talk about the guitar for a second. And I got this mirrored guitar. I'm looking at this mirror. I'm seeing a hole in my heart. I turn the guitar around. It's all mirror. There's no more hole in the back of that guitar.
That just proves the answer is in your own hands.
It's inside of you.
It means you're empowered to be able to do it.
Correct.
Right? However, again, I'm going to go to the system. It's harder and harder and harder. The character contemplates a story. A quandary. And the quandary is, why aren't more people givers? It's such a wonderful...
Yeah, why are they taking?
Why are they acting like takers? Why are they only worried about themselves? Because he hasn't figured it out yet. Oh, by the way, there's a second book coming. All the songs are written. It's called Givers Rise Up.
Right.
And it contemplates the system more than it contemplates the people. So this is more, there's more content coming.
So this whole concept of the hole in your heart and the givers versus the takers evolves into something called Aim on You and aimonu.com. And One Shot Billy is featured right there in the mirror guitar as you enter the site. It's a beautiful site as you come into it. And there's content and there's audio and there's things here. But it's like, how did we evolve from the book, the play, the songs into Aim on You? What's the essence of Aim on You?
Aim on You is, my daughter is texting me. Sorry about that. She's the only one that can get through to me.
I thought you snoozed it.
No, I did. My daughter is like,
the geotag.
I love you, honey. Can you send her a text, babe?
Stop texting me. Stop texting me now.
She's the only one if she needs me, no matter where
I
I
have
am.
on my phone. I have a geotag. I enter the space that I'm in now, and there's only two people: my daughter and my wife.
Yeah, right.
That can get through.
If I don't care who I'm with.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
my phone does not.
I guess I didn't reach for my pocket, so maybe.
Yeah.
But we had talked earlier. To contemplate the hole in his heart is to really let everybody know they're empowered by their own destiny, however hard the system makes it. But let me continue with the historical. When I realized I had knocked on every small playhouse. I had sent out the script to all these play places. Nobody responded. I never got one response, right?
Right.
I'm self-taught at everything. I don't take lessons. I break it and try to figure it out.
Learn how to play the guitar.
All myself. I never took a lesson. Yeah. And I said to Veronica, my wife, partner, I said, I got to write it as a book. I got to get it down. And I remember coming out of the big room I used to sit in at the old house. This is going to be the hardest thing I've ever done. And that was 2012, 13, 14, probably 14. And I just finished it last week.
That's the rewrite.
Because I wrote it twice. Yeah. Because
2.0.
2.0. And so fast forward, I released the book. Deep down, I knew I wasn't a great writer. I loved the songs. Everybody told me the songs are great. The book didn't do what I was hoping it would do, at least spark some interest.
Yeah, right.
And my mother all along would say, you have to marry the songs with the story.
Right.
That's what you have to do.
I forgot about that.
You have to marry the songs with the story. And
so therefore it is a play with the story.
It's a very unique.
It's a musical.
It's a very unique product in the market because there's not many of them out there. And because it's so original, I think it's probably the only thing like it.
Should be a Broadway show.
Well, should
be off Broadway, Broadway.
So I just
But
found
like the message, like when you look at like, you know, any like Disney movie, right? You got some pain, and then you got the hero's journey, and then at the end, it's like this, you know, like you work through the struggle. You've closed the hole in your heart.
you're looking at a 2-man Disney crew right here
Yeah.
because it has got the whole. I sent it to Disney.
Yeah.
What's it? Placider. Or,
Yeah.
And through my attorney down in Nashville,
Yeah.
never responded, which is fine. You know?
But like, I think this thing has its time.
Sure, that's.
But here's the key: it's eternal.
it's
The
written
message,
to be eternal.
the message is not any different
No.
than you
When I
take some of
first
the
started.
some of the best people in the history of, like, let's just call it empowerment, self-empowerment, self-help, Neville Goddard, right? You go back into the 40s and 50s. It's about your inner self. It's about closing the hole in that heart and being authentic to the individual. That's when you get the change. And that's when you actually see that by giving as opposed to taking. And there's always an element of give and take
Yeah,
in every
and-
relationship, right? There's an element of
Yeah.
this. But it's like, if I'm doing it for the sake of giving, like if I open the door for you at the food store, and whether you say thank you or not, it doesn't really matter because I did it for myself, not for the thank you.
Yeah, and again, I want to talk about like all the big things that you can do to give and to help people less fortunate. When I first stopped working, Veronica is like, because I'm a frustrated philosopher / psychologist. I study and study people, and that helped me in business. That helped me in sports.
I mean, our first 2 meetings was a psychology
Yeah, it's all-
interview. Was I effed up or was I not effed up? Like,
Oh,
is this somebody that?
I psychoanalyzed you?
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. It was like, are we? You know, what's your real philosophy? What's this? And you would ask me the same question like 42 times.
Well, see,
I'm like, I answered that question 400 times.
And people accuse me of asking too many questions, and I say the reason I do that is because you might say something I never thought about. If I just keep going blah blah blah, it's not
And
going
you're
to
not
help.
listening. Yeah.
Yeah. So I always ask questions, and some people have gotten frustrated by me just seeing things that I think are really important, and that they just don't have time for it. So that's okay. But it's,
You ask a question to somebody that evokes emotion. You've actually given them the opportunity to actually express themselves. Because a lot of times people are afraid to express themselves. And you're the kind of guy, your whole story is about just express yourself. Talk through it. Because when you talk through it, you have the ability to really see what it is. If you're holding it inside and you're not really bringing it out, you can't get it out.
Can I give you a real life example?
Please do.
We are lucky. These 2 houses that we rebuilt, we still own,
Yep.
and we rent them. And they're in Long Branch, and there's a big Brazilian community in Long Branch.
100%, yeah.
And we've had 3 families come through, because we try to give them flexibility, and they've all purchased houses and moved on.
Which
And
is
it
awesome.
Makes us feel great.
Yeah.
There's a new family that right in the middle of us being so busy, and we have a lease that extends for another 6 months or so, they want to leave. And they want to, I'm just letting you know. And no game plan, just I'm not staying.
Yeah, we're going to not renew the lease and we're going to leave at some point.
And that puts pressure on me because we have a daughter in school and I can't divorce myself of the system. I'm not going to.
Yeah, money isn't everything, but without it, you're not going to pay some groceries.
But you try to think beyond the money.
Right.
So we are trying to help him mitigate this liability, this exposure. And I don't because we retained a broker, because some of the things, the way he was acting, I didn't really appreciate. And it may just be communication, but I didn't want to get frustrated. So we have a dear friend who's our broker, and she tries to keep it light. So finally last night, they've been proposing a boarding house. They have 4 different individuals that could move in. And that's something I don't really care to do.
No. You want a family. Yeah.
So they, 2 of them showed up last night. They called me. I was about to eat, asked if I could come over. The broker organized. I went over there. They were all sitting on the couch. And I sat right next to my tenant. If I couldn't sit, I almost sat in his lap. And I said to them, I do not want to do this, but I'm going to explore this because of him.
Correct.
I want him to buy a house.
Right.
I want him to empower his family because that's the American dream. And we started talking about how hard that is to do.
Yeah.
I said,
Especially in this area.
so in order for Veronica and I to be able to do this, we will, but this is how we need to make sure we're protected and make sure. So it was this open, and you could see, like even the broker, they're all like, I don't want to do that, but let's explore it, and I'll try to make it. So I expressed, and with an open mind, like I always try to live by Socrates' story that I didn't learn until I was 60 years old. And do you know it? And I do not know why they don't teach this.
No.
My daughter took a class at American University. She said, Dad, you got to hear the story of Socrates. Long story short, great orator,
Yep.
warrior,
Yep.
intelligent, never wrote a thing down, would stand in the public square and start to criticize and ridicule all the Greek gods. This
Yep.
is ridiculous.
Yes.
You know, all these Greek gods. And the young people who were, finding it interesting, he was starting to get a gathering. And then when a dignitary would walk by, he challenged them and sort of mocked them in public. So he got called up to the highest court for blasphemy and spoiling the mind of the youth, which blasphemy is punishable by death.
Right.
He had the right to get a lawyer, represent himself. And he decided to represent himself. He approached the bench and he said, I know you're threatened by my wisdom. And I want you to know my wisdom is based on the fact that I know nothing. And when she told me that,
I just keep exploring.
when she told me that, not that the world opened up, but it all made sense because that's how I've tried to explore this. And Veronica knows from me, I find somebody I love, I admire, okay, I got to find somebody next.
Yeah, you
like
dig
I
in.
don't go back at all.
Right.
I hold them in my pocket as gold,
Right.
but there's a
And
new.
it builds your roots. It builds the character. It helps you evolve in that, journey of closing the hearts. And
Selfish.
yeah.
It's selfish.
But is it selfish?
It's selfish. Everything we do is selfish because I want to be the best I can be.
When you say selfish, do you mean that in a derogatory way or do you mean that in a positive way?
It's a positive way. I mean, it's all relative to the word. That's why if you really want to talk about words, they've injected brands into our culture to make sure we are in a tribal lane.
Oh, yeah.
That's really why I wrote the book. Okay, you want to it's like you're either a giver or taker.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear Republican, Democrat, man, woman, black, white, progressive,
Independent,
conservative. It drives me
independent,
nuts. Tell
yeah.
me the issue, and I'll tell you how I feel. So you're either
Libertarian, whatever the heck
so
it is.
I've said to my daughter, I just wish for you to marry a giver because when there's two kinds of people, three kinds of relationships.
Right.
You put two givers together, they're going to last. Even when it's bad, it's good because they're
Yeah.
both, I married a giver. Even when it's bad, it's good. Right? When you put two takers together, they may team up, beat everybody up, and just thrive in that. But usually one will take more than the other, and the other one will get mad, and they'll break up.
And they're taken from each other as opposed to giving.
They may team up, but usually one will take from the other, and they'll break up, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But you put a giver and a taker together, and the taker won't stop till they take everything.
From
And
the
that's
giver.
the culture we live in. That's why I wrote the story. That's why I want that brand to be in the world. If I could wave my magic wand and the biggest insult you could lay upon somebody is you're a taker.
Yeah.
And it's in the story.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's so insulting for somebody to be a taker. Like you're just self-absorbed. Everything's for you, me. And that's like, and again, I have empathy. I'm not blaming those people driving a million miles to try to get their next paycheck because it starts at the top.
Yeah. It's like, it's the conditioning, it's the thinking, it's the programming, it's the way they've, things have been embedded in their brains. And it's like they're just running on a treadmill without really a lot of knowledge. It's the way it's supposed to be. They don't have that visual of like, oh shit, I am taking.
You put
more than I
one
give.
person in front of them that's ordained.
When you say
Ordained.
Ordained. What do you mean by that?
Bruce Springsteen could write a terrible song. Everybody loves it.
Correct.
That's ordained.
I like that.
I
like
sit
it now.
back and I go, wow.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I keep moving. I keep moving. There's a young fella in England called Ren, R-E-N. I'm in love with him. I'm in love with his spirit. You know, he's just,
What is
he's independent. He's been through health. He was interviewed about his health issues, and he started crying in the interviewer because he had some terrible health issues. He had some strong kid, but he had Lyme's disease, and nobody could solve it. So for 6 years, he had psychotic episodes because he was just out of. They just used him as a guinea pig and just fed him. And he started crying when the guy asked him about his health, and the guy goes, "I'm sorry to, get that deep." He goes, "No, man, I'm not crying for me. I'm crying for all the people that didn't get out."
Yeah.
I was like, "Shit."
Yeah.
This is the other night I
I'm
was
gonna
at
grab that sweatshirt for a second. Just keep on going.
Okay. The other night I was at a seminar for public speaking, and one of the people, Veronica and I were in attendance, and one of the people was like, "Would you help me, train me for public speaking?" Asked the teacher.
Right.
And the teacher said, "Absolutely. Here's my card." And she, if it wasn't, you're getting one, you're getting one. But if it, and she says, "How much do you charge?" And he goes, "I'll do it to help you." And I just automatically, my arms went up because I'm this fortunate soul that can live beyond money because of you and because of my wife and because of this 20-year span and the way I live. I find value in just my little world.
It's freedom.
It's just, but I'm like, yes, that is it. That's for that Nietzsche. He didn't blink.
Right.
He didn't blink.
He's like, "I'm just gonna do it for you."
And he's the same guy when, we hadn't seen each other in a long time. I sent him chapter 1 of the book, and he just out of the blue goes, "I do web design." He's a very smart fella who's been working for AT&T. So we're meeting him Friday now. I would never show up there without our hard work. So Veronica and I for a month have been grinding at this website. So we're really curious.
And it's like, this whole journey of evolving, like, aim on you. I'm wearing this sweatshirt now. I put the sweatshirt on. It is backwards. When you see it on this camera, it is backwards. But when I look in the mirror, it's 100% forward.
It's your journey.
And it is. And I think the message to me that I'm getting from this is when you aim on you, aim on me, aim here, it's the giving and focusing on how can I give the best quality? How can I share it with the most amount of people? And how can I help people go one step further towards plugging the hole in their heart?
Never plug, only be conscious, only be aware. It takes a life of its own. I don't believe in this visual of I only believe in awareness is the key to change. And if you want people to be just more authentic to the way I believe people are programmed to be, and that's to have a beautiful sharing, experience on this planet without the pressure of I got to get this done. I think that would be a great way to start. But I would give it to the businessmen, the politicians, the world, takers in positions of authority. That's what the book contemplates. If takers in positions of authority come to grips with what really makes you proud and live a full life to help patch this hole that we're all born with, the only thing to do is giving. And you see examples of it all the time. It's not really put into the world,
right?
Because they don't want people to think that's your empowerment. But I would, do you know Jordan Peterson?
No, sure.
Okay. I listened, I read, impressed, and then he went on Joe Rogan. And Joe Rogan, which, I'm not promoting anybody.
Right.
This is just me listening and learning. So I'm not saying fans or anything. Ren, I'm a fan. And Joe goes, "Oh, you were in Australia yesterday. Before that you were in Belgium, blah, 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 blah. Why are you working?" And he says, "You got to strike while the iron's hot." And that turned me off. Like,
How come?
because I just feel like he's trying to sell books. You know, he's trying to, I don't need, we're giving our audiobook away for free. And we're going to
Where is that? Where are you?
aimonU.com.
Okay.
And it's going to be the most unique user listener experience, because we are in the process of writing the script that when we give, there's 27 chapters. There's all intermingled with music and songs, the character plot forwarding songs, typical to a musical, but it's an audiobook. It's solo narrated by a fellow by the name of Josh Hurley, that if you hear him act like a woman, act like a little, you're sitting at a campfire going, wow, this guy's wowing me with his performance. And all the music was recorded by incredible pros in Nashville. And we are writing a script to interject the chapters, not everyone, with backstory and a video of me. So when you get through a chapter, I'm going to give a little tidbit now. There's guitar parts in the story, in the audiobook.
Okay.
And I recorded the guitar parts at my friend Ricky, who I've mentioned a couple times, at his little studio in his house. And believe it or not, those guitar parts are recorded on Michael Jackson's microphone.
Oh, wow.
Because he got Michael Jackson's, for all you audiophiles, Neumann U45 from that whole mess with Vaccaro in Asbury Park. Because he's friends with them, they said, here's a gift. So I recorded that on Michael Jackson's microphone.
That's pretty cool.
Isn't that something?
That's pretty cool.
So when I told the engineer that put the audiobook, we worked together putting it together, Billy Hall, he was so tickled. So if you're really into sound and, you know, what Tony does for you, it's just like if this was Michael Jackson's microphone, you're like, wow, that's pretty cool.
You know, I mean, Jim Scanlon's microphone could be, you know, something like Michael Jackson.
That doesn't tickle me.
It doesn't have to tickle you, but it might actually be.
But it's...
Particularly nasty weather.
So here's, I want to get to my mom a little bit, if I could redirect it, because this is the crux of why Aim on You came to be. She said, you have to marry the songs, and she passed away. And we had lived in Fairhaven in a little ranch since the late 50s. And that house she never left, all of a sudden was worth X. She asked me to be the executor. I know you helped me a little bit with that, thank you. And my wife was great with that, thank you. And I managed my 3 other siblings, and we ended up having to sell the house, or it was the right thing to do for everybody.
Sure.
So the money I got, I pledged to put it towards the audiobook. And we got a little sidetracked because my brother, who lived with her, needed a place to live, and all that money went to building a place for him. But we were able to scrape up enough to hire a producer, hire a producer/director. I rewrote the whole script. We reviewed it together. Then we hired an engineer, and then we hired this great narrator. In fact, on the cover of the audiobook, featuring, or I said, read by Josh Hurley.
So as we wrap up in this conversation, what do you think the most important message that this whole experience of Aim on You is really going to capture people? Like, what do you want people to get from this?
Only my daughter and my wife to surround themselves with givers. If it can spread, I'm not, you know, it's when you've been at something for so long and you're met with deaf ears, it doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
Doesn't matter. No, if somebody grabbed it and ordained it all of a sudden, but I would not be impressed. I'm not waiting. I'm also a fortunate soul that I've been good at where people have paid me accolades.
Sure.
I'm not thirsty for that. I don't need to be invited to the party. You know, I'm just happy.
What do you want? What do you want?
And that's, you know, is it true? Test me. Words are cheap.
That's
Test
what you want.
me.
Test it.
Test it.
Test it.
You know
see
what
how
I mean?
it works.
And see how
that's what you want people to do.
See how gracious I can be, and how benevolent dictator, right? Benevolent dictator. Is there such a thing? Benevolent dictator. So who is it? I'm convinced it's not a who that's going to save. It's a what. and Aim on You might be a what. It's not going to be the who,
Yep.
because I'm a who.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Ultimately, it's going to be a what, and even that who will be changed by the what.
Correct.
So I don't pledge, when I use the word fan over this kid, Ren, I just truly admire what he's out doing. And he's now caught in a little, somebody's attacking him from a monetary system standpoint, and he's getting tested right now.
Nice.
Boy, he's getting tested.
All right.
And you could see he's me when I was 27. He's ready to fight.
Yeah.
But he'll learn that at the end of the day, I lay on the ground and I connect with the stars, and I look right through the culture. And when I do that, I try not to think I'm a man. I try not to think, like anything to do with the filter other than just what's in the stars. And can you do that? And the only way to do it is through empathy, open-mindedness, and understanding. And unless empathy leads the way, like judgment, sure, I'm as judgmental as they get. But if I'm aware that empathy is really the powerful, agent that's going to make us better, then I have to, check myself.
Yeah.
And I have to think. And the last thing I would ever want is people think I'm better or I'm as flawed as they come. But boy, am I a hard worker. And boy, do I want the world to be better for my daughter. So those are my selfish endeavors. I want her to walk down the street. This culture is building an incredible mass of people with nothing to lose. I want to give them something to lose. That would be my wish.
There you
That
go.
the culture says we need to empower these people. You know what I mean? And that way, our kids, because I know you have a bunch of kids,
I do.
will have a better world to live
25? No, 4.
in. 25?
Yeah, 4.
I know somebody with 7. And I want to thank you for
I want to thank you for being
on the team.
Yeah, I want to thank you for being on this and sharing this fabulous story.
It's interesting.
This was a great conversation.
It's interesting. Maybe when things start to catch, or if they catch, we could follow up again. I'll show you the mirror guitar and stuff.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right?
Sir? Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Boom.